And we are back. Judd'z Budz, episode 76, apparently. As always, I am your host, Spoke Z, aka just a guy with a mic. And I am not joined, as always, by my good buddy, Mr. At State of Hoppy. Instead, we have the one, the only, the Godfather, Isha, joining me today. As Hoppy's just continuing to vacation along New England here. So, Isha, how we doing, dude?
What's up, buddy? It's good to jump on with you. Yeah, Hoppy's on his booze cruise right now in your neck of the woods.
That's right, dude. Me and Hoppy hung out in real life for like 4 or 5 days. Boston, we drove down to the Cape, hit Judd's restaurant.
How was it? Because you guys were talking about it on your last episode, and we posted a clip about it on the YouTube channel. So, like, did it live up to all its glory? I was reading so many articles about it too, and I was like posting the video, just like, you know, as I do, looking for keywords and stuff in the description. I just kept like going through article after article, just like, oh my god, everything just looks amazing. So, what were some of the top dishes, and what do you grade it?
Oh, it was unbelievable. It was funny too, because like. I'm guessing it was Russo's interview with Judd when he was there, or just last time he interviewed Judd, asking like what should he get when Russo goes to the port or whatever. And Judd's like, my go-to's scallop risotto. And then we go down there, and everywhere on the kid we go that's been to the port, that knows the port, naturally Hoppy has to ask, what do you recommend? Which is
with every waiter.
Everybody. Well, every brewery's like, what do you recommend? And they're like, oh, fuck. Like, I don't know.
He's that guy who's asking all the questions, where all the waiters and waitresses are like, I really hope I don't get a guy who's asking a lot of questions at this table.
Well, it's more funny like in like Boston, because everyone like the people are like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like,
in Minnesota, I guess people are so much more nicer. Like, I am happy to tell you everything on our menu and sit down with you and take notes.
Yeah, in Boston, people are like, this guy fucking serious. But like, it was funny everywhere that we went in the Cape that if they knew the port, the first thing they said, like, get the scallop risotto. So it was that's what he got. I actually got it too, and holy fuck, dude, it was unbelievable. It's funny, before I even knew it was Judd's restaurant, I've been there like 4 or 5, 6,
no way,
7 times. But just for drinks and beers and stuff, like, so that's the first time I actually got food there. Oh man. Yeah, no, it lived right up to the hype. It was incredible. Loved it. Great weekend. Good time on the Cape. But yeah, no, it was just funny. You never know how that's gonna go. Like meeting. Oh no,
like,
I feel like I know you guys very well. Yeah, exactly. Like, you guys when I came out to Minnesota out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like, let's see how this goes. And it was very funny. It was just like seamless and literally the exact same like interactions we have. It's just like literally a person. So
I saw you guys tagging Costco.
Yeah, it's funny as shit.
Watching that movie. Which was awesome. That one clip you guys were talking about, and
maybe
we all were talking. Maybe I forget what stream it was. It was either like one of your guys' episodes, Judd'z Budz episode, or was the draft stream. But regardless, Sean Konsta.
He quotes that movie. Yeah, we quote that movie every fucking episode. So,
dude, by the way, I just want to give a special shout out to him. He's an exclusive like member on my other channel. Like, he pays for like extra stuff that we give on that channel. He hasn't showed up to any of the extra streams, doesn't take any of the perks, just throws me like enough money for Quick Trip every month. So shout out to you, Sean. You're an absolute beauty. I'm gonna give you a special shout out here. For everybody watching, like, hit us up in the comments. Like, we're totally interactive. As always, we have it's the dog days of summer. Like, I'm not even really on Twitter much right now, other than to share like fight highlights to our group chats as always. But Z's even on Twitter less than I am right now, and I mean, there's nothing to report, right? Like, there's nothing really to talk about. Everything that kind of happened for the Wild, you guys discussed in the last like 2-3 episodes anyways. But having said that, like, there is a little prospect talk. The Athletic and Scott Wheeler and co are still doing a great job of like pumping out some content to keep those hockey savages like us somewhat, entertained and primed for the next season. So we will talk a little bit about that. Well, actually, Z will talk a little bit about that while I sit back and learn like all you guys. And then we have just a couple other little things to go over in the world of sports and hockey. But before we get into all that, I got to settle a beef with you, Z. I got to settle the beef. Now that we're here, we're live, we're talking mano a mano, not in DMs or anything. I hear that you have a problem with the thumbnails that I've been posting on YouTube. So let's settle it right now. Let's settle it right now. Like, what's the issue, and like how can we settle this? Because I don't want any more back and forth, behind each other's backs. Let's just settle the beef right now.
You're doing it right now, you motherfucker. Oh my god! Every time it's just
talking about. That's what I'm saying.
I end up catching the fucking ricochet shots every time. I look, it's just like the funniest one a couple weeks ago. I can't remember which one it was. But I think I said it to Hoppy. It was just like, oh yeah, it's like, oh no, actually it was the one that I did end up getting yelled at for by someone the other day, where it was like, Wild fans just don't get it. Like, at no point did I say that. Literally, it gets thrown. Like, this shit gets thrown to the fucking outline. I'm like, I don't even know what's going on.
That's what I'm saying. We got to air it out right now. And because, like, I don't know you're getting flack for it. I'm like, oh, yeah, if I saw this while scrolling on YouTube, I'd click that shit as a Wild fan. That's where my mind is at.
Yeah, and if you didn't know shit about it and you clicked on it, you'd be like, yeah, fuck this guy. And whose face is on there but mine?
I can see my face. I mean, that's...
And you just did it again. I didn't... Oh, God. I am responsible for essentially nothing other than what comes out of my mouth. All the promotional shit is not me. And all the promotional shit is just fucking... Like, half of it's clickbait. And I am the one that looks like I am saying the shit about people, you motherfucker. Like, okay, I'm just... No, like, I didn't do that.
I will tone down the titles on.
You're gonna amp it up. You're gonna amp it up, you bastard.
Honestly, I don't know how much more I can amp it up, to be honest.
I know you. I'll go. I want to go. There was a couple like in a row.
Yeah, okay. Let me know.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
I'll even bring them up on screen. By the way, Sean Cosgrove with the first dono. This is going right into Z's pocket, by the way, dude. Sean Cosgrove, $3.50 donation. Thank you so much. Good work, boys. Here's Tree. Look at that, Z. Money right into your pocket. First stream with Ishan, you're getting paid, dude. Look at that. Z, why do you hate Wild fans, bro? Seriously.
Well, look at that. My face is up for the Eric. I know this is like.
Okay, I'm gonna bring some of them up here. I'm just gonna share my screen and like this is a fun opening segment. Let's, like I said, we're airing the dirty laundry. We're settling the beef. Let me bring some of these up on screen here. Again, shout out to Sean. Shout out to everyone joining.
Oh, my God. Taylor Hall out. Mark Scheifele and Milan Lucic in.
Dude, that one did great, by the way. That one did great. All right. So I'm going to scroll. Where was that one? This one is Seth, by the way. I mean, it's beautiful. Come on. This one did really good. Hard eyes for Marchand there. I mean, identify one year that's a little too much. I mean, I feel like all these are pretty fair. This one was good. This, like, the Lamorello one's one of my favorites. The clip and the thumbnail. I can't believe someone made this. So I just kind of took that from them. But yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, everything looks pretty tame here to me. We will pass. Anyways, I can tone it down, Z. I will tone it down. And I'm sorry it's caused you grief. I'm sorry if you had to deal with angry Wild fans. Although, like, Seth's burner account, I mean, I know it's Seth. The last account, the one where I like circled the tweet there, that's Seth's like third Wild burner account, I'm pretty sure. So like that's no harm,
Oh my God. Why the Wild passed on Oliver Moore? This is fucking unbelievable.
Is Jason Robertson the most overrated player in the league? No, he was actually robbed of the Calder trophy, the Calder award. Shout out to you, Tegrity. It's good to see you, buddy. Okay, but anyway, Z, I will tone it down. And last thing I want to ask you here before we get into the hockey side of things. Any predictions for UFC Boston this weekend, and how excited are you to attend?
Dude, I know I couldn't know less about the UFC if I tried.
It's at the Garden, dude.
I don't give a fuck.
And Sean O'Malley's fighting.
Who's that? I couldn't tell you.
All right. We'll move on. Let's get into Scott Wheeler's top 32 in 2024. If you guys haven't checked that out, The Athletic, I mean, they always have promotions going on. I feel like they never actually charge you $7 or $8.99. They're always charging you like $1 or $2, guys. So go check it out. Obviously Scott Wheeler, great breakdown here. Z, I'm just gonna throw it to you here. I know you and Hoppy have been going through this list. You've been highlighting a bunch of players. We don't necessarily have to agree or disagree with the ranking in which Scott Wheeler has ranked these guys, but what other players do you want to highlight here for our listeners to keep an eye out both throughout the season, but maybe at the end of the season too, as they come back and check some of these videos, check out some of these clips leading up to them being drafted?
Yeah, I mean, so when Hoppy and I did this, and honestly, the only reason that we're using this list is just because it's something to talk about, really, with 2024. So, as we've mentioned the last few weeks, obviously the Helenius is kind of like the kickoff point for a draft eligible. That's that first season that everyone gets their eyes on. People get their names out there, whatever, they get on the map. And this was just recently posted, so we decided that we would just go through some of this stuff. Some of these guys we've already talked about before, but I mean, it's going to be interesting at the top there, and specifically with the Russian factor too. This Ivan Demidov, man, he is unbelievable. My buddy Lassie Allen over at Elite Prospects actually just put up an article. I think it was today, maybe it was yesterday. How this kid's good enough to be a legit contender for the first overall pick. I mean, he just checks every single box. He skates well. He's a dynamic playmaker. He's got the elite shot. And he's way better defensively than really he should be. That his profile states or profile would suggest. He plays such an advanced game where I know people who compare him to even a more well-rounded Michkov, which is crazy considering how good Michkov is. But he has been playing over with SKA, the KHL team, in their preseason. And he's lighting it up. He had 4 points in 2 of their games. He just checks every box, and legitimately just based on pure talent, he's good enough to challenge for that first overall spot. So I'm curious to see, where teams are going to be comfortable, because it's a different situation than it was with Michkov, because first of all, the profile is not the same, where Michkov, there was some risk that, hey, yeah, he's a sniper, and how good is the playmaking? And that eventually by the end of the year was just through the roof too. So, but he's also not signed for another 3 or 4 years. So, yeah, the Russian factor is one thing. Obviously, we saw it didn't really make much of a difference for a couple of teams when we saw 3 Russians go in the top 12 this year. So I'm really curious to see if teams, because I do think, he's only going to get better. He tore it up in his draft -1 year in the MHL, the Russian juniors. He appeared in, I think, 2 KHL games, which is crazy already.
And the Russian juniors is a solid league.
It's a fun league. Yeah, it's an interesting league. There's the top, because there's some teams who have 3 different teams that are all affiliated. So both Daniil Boot and Dmitry Simishev, they're in the Loco system. There's 2 MHL teams. They fluctuated throughout those, both the teams. Michkov did the same thing. There's 4 SKA teams, and he played for all of them. But man, Demidov is unbelievable, and he's so fun to watch. And I say this every time I talk about the Russians. You can watch every single Russian MHL game and VHL game in full for free on YouTube, because they live stream every single game.
It's awesome.
And the quality is really good. The team and we'll see if he just plays in the KHL this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he got games, but knowing how they like to develop players, I probably won't. People can watch him all year long, and he is going to tear that league up again if he does go back and play in the juniors. But he is insane, so fucking fun to watch. I love this. There you go. There's the first article right there. Future Vision, #1 contender 2024. But anyone that's always asking about watching these junior games, I mean, every single fucking game in Russia you can watch for free on YouTube, and it's phenomenal. So strongly encourage it. But yeah, no, he is just so fun to watch. I love love everything he brings to the table, and I think he's going to be a star in the NHL when he does come over. And again, I'm curious to see if how comfortable teams are, because he doesn't have that contract issue like a lot, like Mitchkov did. So he's out there. So unless they sign him, which I wonder if they'll try to do that too, get the extension to keep him over there for a couple more years.
Yeah. Before we move on with some other players, we had Hunter Anderson here in the live chat. Shout out to you, buddy. Thank you so much for the support. He asks, Z, do you think Rossi can crack the top 6 this year or be restricted to the third line? Before I quickly hand it over to Z, I personally think like he has to be in the top 6, or it's just going to be what we saw again last year, where he's just not given the opportunity to succeed. But what are your thoughts, Z?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't. I would love it if he was, because I mean, I think if you put him in a position that he can be a playmaker, that he can be, you give him meaningful minutes, give him offensive looks, I think that would do a world for his own development. I think it would be really good. Like, again, I've said this before, him and Matt Boldy already have a ridiculously good, connection and chemistry there. So, but I mean, where, like, you've got Hartman there and you've got Eriksson Ek. So like it seems like that's pretty solidified already, and there's not really a spot for him in there. And even on, the third line too, we love Freddie Gaudreau. It seems like that's where he's signed for another 5 years. So I don't know if you will crack the top 6. I'd love to see them like give him a look, give him more than 2 minutes. Because I think, the kid obviously can play, and he's just kind of been hampered down by that, who they already have and the contracts that they've signed. So I don't know. I mean, I think he's more than capable of playing in the NHL. We already saw it. Even if he was in his limited role, he was still playing well. When he did play, just wasn't producing. And, there's obviously still holes in his game, but I mean, the kid's ready to play in the NHL. We've seen it. He lit up the AHL. He did everything that they asked him to do. So we'll see what happens. I mean, he stayed in Minnesota this summer. He didn't go back home, I don't think, to Austria. So, I'll be curious to see, what he looks like in camp and those preseason games. Because, we saw what he did in the preseason last year where he was just lighting it up. So I would love to see it, but I just don't see them doing it. Like, just because, again, we've got Hartman there. They've got Eriksson Ek there. I believe they're both going to be healthy for the start of the year. So I don't see it happening, but I would love to, though. Would love it.
Well, allow me to play armchair GM for a moment, Z, and maybe again, create an opportunity here for Marco Rossi to succeed and maybe get something back for the franchise. And I think if that's the case, like what you said, where Hartman's there, X there, why not move on from Hartman?
Well, when you have a guy that you can put as your first line center who's
is he a first line center though? He's like he has that title though. He's not. You know what I mean? Like Rossi could be that actual first line center, not that you're literally in that role, but you know what I mean?
Yes, but when you put him with fucking Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Zuccarello, it really doesn't matter. And he's already shown that he can score 30 goals in the league. Like, yeah, last year didn't go as well, but he had injuries too. So, like, when you have a guy that you're penciling in as your first line center, there's proof of concept that he can play and he can light it up
for sure.
Sheet, then it's pretty good when he's making $1.7 million.
Yeah, can't that get you some good return? And it's win-win for the Wild in that they can get a decent return and Rossi can finally play. Because I just like, if you're putting him on the third line again this year, like, it's just going to hamper his development, no?
I don't think hamper his development. He's still young. That's the funny thing, because now we're seeing all the kids in that draft class that are getting minutes elsewhere because they have the opportunity to.
That's true. Yeah.
But again, if hypothetically, if you're a team, how many teams can actually put him Ryan Hartman in a position that he's in the Minnesota Wild to produce, right? Like, he's playing between Zuccarello and Kirill Kaprizov, two of the best playmakers in the league. So he's incredibly talented as is. That's why he was a first-round pick when he was drafted. But how many other teams are going to be able to say, yeah, we can have him fill the same exact role and reliable? It's going to be reliable that he's going to do the same exact thing when he scored 30 goals a couple years ago. I don't see many teams wanting to really give up a ton and gamble on the fact that, like, yeah, if we bring Hartman in, then he's going to do the exact same thing that he did when he scored 30 goals that year. Like, he is very good, and there's proof of concept there, but a lot of that has to do with the situation. But then, yeah, he's done a lot of the hard lifting himself too, but I don't think there's a whole lot of teams that can offer the same role. And it's a pretty big game if you're going to give up a big package or a meaningful package for Ryan Hartman, expecting him to do what he did a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and by no means am I like trying to rip on Hart. Like I absolutely love that type of player. Like I'm, as Z knows well, like I'm very much more old school hockey minded. Like I love a player who I love everything that Hartman embodies. What I'm saying just now, it's like where else can we create opportunities for that of a Rossi and still maybe get a return? And you're right, it's a very small list of teams, and it would probably be those in Stanley Cup contention who are like, all right, we're gonna get value for this player at his small cap hit. However, he won't be in those opportunities. He won't be in those spots like he is with the Wild, where, like you said, he can show that offense as well. I just wanted to chime in there because, like, that's right now. I mean, barring Rossi just absolutely earns it out of camp. Like, is there a spot for him in the top 6 right now?
No, because I mean, I would imagine that you're looking at the top line of Zuccarello, Hartman, Kaprizov, second line of Boldy, Eriksson Ek, and JoJo, not Mojo, Marcus Johansson. Where it gets interesting though is the third line, because I mean, so when he was playing, he wasn't even given like the third line opportunity. They just penciled in the fourth line, and like all D zone draws, like pretty much. And again, defensively, he was good. He was solid. He was fine. And there just wasn't a whole lot of opportunities for him to really play more than like 8-9 minutes a game, if that. There was one game I think he played like 4-5 minutes. So where it gets interesting though this year is like looking at the third line. Like, do you look at some combination of Rossi with Gaudreau and Foligno? Like, nothing says that Gaudreau has to be the center.
No, and I don't.
And at the same time, I would imagine that they don't want to use him as a winger. But I mean, would they ever consider, just to get him more minutes and get him more opportunity, putting Rossi at the wing? I don't know, but that's where it gets interesting for me. So, you know, there's definitely more opportunity there. But again, he's going to have to beat out some other players. But I want to see him given a little bit more rope that he was last year. Hey, listen, there were spots they put him in that he could have jumped at and taken advantage of, and he didn't. But I mean, he was his first like real look at the NHL, and again, most of the minutes that he got was in a pretty defensive role. So I don't know, man. I think there's opportunity for him to be in that third line, and you know, at the same time, that would be a solid defensive line and with some offensive upside too. I'm wondering if they're just going to wait out these buyouts and then really hammer home. You know, they're going to have the cap space. They're going to be able to like elevate other players and really kind of bring in like a younger look in general. And at the same time, that's when you've got guys like Yurov, Husnudinov coming over, Liam Ohgren coming over. So that could be very fun too. So I wonder if they're trying to ride out that wave. But I mean, hey, if he goes and grabs it in camp, you know, like Bill Guerin's thing is, all right, well, go fucking show me. I don't care like who you are. Like, I don't care where you got drafted. I don't care how many games. If you earn it, you earn it. So, you know, assuming he and Dino are on the same page there, the opportunity is going to be there. It's just whether or not, you know, he earns it more than other guys. But I still think there's opportunity for him to play in that third line role and get meaningful minutes, because when the Wild are rolling and when they're playing really well, they're rolling 4 lines. So
yeah, and the third lines, in fairness, like they're producing when they're rolling, right? So no, for sure. I mean, they're losing their best depth score, or they lost their best depth score in Ryan Reeves in the offseason, but that's
right. That was brutal.
I mean, hey, dude, I kid, I poke Brett all the time about it, but like, who else stepped up in goals when Kaprizov went out more than Ryan Reeves? No one. So, I mean, he'll always have that. By the way, Tegrity Farms, Fiala, like Billy Guerin could have kept Fiala. What are you talking about? I know the coaching staff values Foligno's locker room presence, but I really hope they don't pay him $3+ million again over multiple years. Well, that's another guy like a Ryan Hartman. Like, Foligno's a very good trade chip for the Wild if they want to clear some space on the roster to bring up some of the young guys who are starting to pop in the AHL and who are NHL ready. But then it's just like you kind of have to change a little bit of like, I don't know, not necessarily the face or identity of your team, but you got to make up for that fear factor in some places, don't you?
Yeah, and I mean, listen, so Foligno's got one more year, $3.1 million for what he brings you, that's an incredible deal.
I think you just ride with that, honestly.
Yeah, I can't.
You can re-sign him, great. If not, whatever. Like he was a good soldier.
Well, the big thing is he's going to be at the end of this contract. He'll be 33 years old. They're not going to give him, a big long deal.
See, watch him get 20 goals this year. But watch him get 20 goals this year. Then his agent's going to demand that shit.
Well, then, hey, good for fucking him. He deserves it. But I can't imagine.
It's not out of the possibility that he's gonna have a big pay cut next year, right? Like if he has a good season, he could make the same contract, not long term, but he could make the same cap hit or a little bit more if he starts scoring again, because the cap is supposed to go up.
Right. Yeah, and that's the other factor too. I'm curious to see how long it takes for it to go up by like more than 1 million. It sounds like they're expecting it as early as 2 seasons from now to really like jump by more than 1 million.
How crazy is it?
But I mean, it's also funny too. Like, if people are worried, like if Marcus Foligno earns another contract that pays him more than 3.1 million, that means that he lit it up this year, which is a phenomenal problem to have if you're the Minnesota Wild.
Oh yeah. No, for sure. John, what's up, John? Trade Foligno, slot in Beckman, Maroon in places Foligno's toughness. I mean, that is he does replace that toughness. He just doesn't. I mean, not that Foligno's the most fleet of foot either, but Maroon he is stapled on that fourth line, whereas Foligno, he's leaned upon and will get more minutes, right? But no, fair enough. And that's the thing. Like, there's so many prospects. There's so many pros in the AHL who are knocking on the door right now. And again, all good problems to have. It's just with the Wilds, cap constrictions and with just how many, let's be honest, like third, second liners they have on this team up and down the roster. It's just tough right now it's tough right now to make those decisions, especially before camp. I feel like after camp, like in preseason, like that always makes some of the decisions easier because either a player will like absolutely blow your expectations out of the water and you make room for him, or you're like, okay, I was right. Those Beckman is still not ready out of camp, sort of thing.
Right. And I do think Beckman's ready. And that's actually even like another good question where, we're talking about Marco Rossi, this, that, but if they're really firm that Freddie Gaudreau is only a center and they're only willing to play him at center, does that open up an opportunity for Beckman over Rossi? Because I mean, Beckman was phenomenal in the AHL last year. Like he played so well and took such a giant leap. And still, like he scored over 20 goals, and he's still he must have been top 5 in the AHL in terms of like posts and crossbars hit. He played so well though, like just in terms of like the well-rounded game too. Like he's so good. So I do believe that he is ready, and this is right around the time that you would like to see him make that jump. He's done again, like what they were hoping he would do last year. He did. Again, it's just all about where the opportunity lies in the team and how that lineup shakes out. I mean, injuries are going to happen. I think Wild fans know it a lot better than a lot of other teams in the league, a lot of other fans, because it seems like when it rains, it pours, and like half the lineup gets hurt at the exact same time. Or there's like one major injury, that guy comes back, and then there's another guy like in the top 6 or top 14 that also gets injured and is out for a substantial period of time. So the opportunities will be there throughout the year. But the question there, like if they're firm about Gaudreau being a center, does that open up open up some opportunity for like a kid like Adam Beckman, even over a kid like Marco Rossi? So it's interesting there too. Yeah, no, I agree. Beckman's for sure ready, but again, like good problems to have. At the same time, this is about the time you really want to be incorporating a kid like Adam Beckman, who's kind of proven it at the AHL level, gotten better year after year. Again, same thing with so last year, the preseason, Rossi was a beast. The year before that, Beckman was a fucking beast. Gordie Howe hat trick against St. Louis where he scored the OT winner. So, I mean, there's been spurts where you're seeing it. There's proof of concept. So it'll be interesting. I mean, either way, I'm not going to panic. I just really am hoping that some of these young kids do get a legit look. But again, hey, it's all how they come into camp, and that's going to say more than anything else. So,
no, for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely some things that get frustrating with that. But at the same time, you do understand, like, you look at the roster, the contracts, what exactly is going on, and you can kind of see what I'm sure they're kind of mapping out and planning for, and which kind of answers some of the questions of why isn't this guy up? Why isn't this guy up? Why is this guy getting opportunity over, a younger player? But it's still a good team, and the prospects are, I mean, it's an unbelievable pool where so many of these guys have legit NHL futures. So again, a good problem to have, if not frustrating.
Well, especially when you get to that point, and we'll get to the comments, whoever, and Mean Mark, just in a second. Guys, keep the comments coming, because the more comments and more questions you ask, like, we're ragging the puck on our show outline here today, talking about 2024.
This happens every time.
So
every
just
time.
Keep the comments coming. We will prioritize your comments as far as show content over our outline today, because, like I said, we like, it's a lot of just ragging the puck there. But no, you said it. You said it, Z, for sure. And like, man, it's going to be so good when they reach that point, kind of like Chicago was before their first round. And I hate to use Chicago as an example on a Minnesota Wild podcast, sorry guys, but when they started to pop, right, and they had that abundance of prospects as well after like years of rebuilding, years of pain, and they won their first cup. Even before that, they were able to trade so many of their prospects that like there just simply wasn't room for, guys who were pros and who are about to maybe even pop, like the likes of Bufflin, for example, who they did win a cup with, but like they had so many players all in their system, they were able to move to basically fit all the missing, or check all the missing boxes there to go for that dynasty run as well. Like they just did it perfectly. And again, I hate to give Chicago any love, but just like on the ice and how they built that team right before their first run in the beginning of their dynasty, like they had an abundance of prospects. They were able to move on from some of as well. Some who played, some who helped them be successful early, but also some that they didn't really even ice. They were able to move on from. And I feel like the Wild, once their entire pool, or at least 80% of it, are at that point where like these guys are pretty much pros, ready for pros, playing AHL, getting third line, fourth line minutes in the NHL. Like the Wild and Billy Guerin are, assuming Billy Guerin's still manager at that point, which again he's done phenomenal work thus far under these cap constraints. He very well should be. Like they're gonna have so much to play around with to really build the team that they want to, and I feel like that's exciting for a GM. Like obviously there's the human aspect, and it kind of sucks for some of these players who are like, ready to come in for the Wild and maybe move on to a different opportunity. But at the end of the day, it's a business, it's a game. And I feel like as someone who gets to build the team, like you have so many pieces to play around with right when the cap constraints end, right, in 2 years. And you're like, okay, now I can really start to build this team. And on the icing on the cake, cherry on top, is that the cap's going to go up, like you said.
Yeah. And this is something I've talked about before too, just like, so it's always funny. It's kind of like a double-edged sword when, people who cover prospects are getting excited over like every Judd bracket draft, all the prospect, like whatever. It's always very exciting for a fan base, obviously. And especially for me being both a fan and someone like at this point, I probably like watching like junior and prospects like that hockey more than like the NHL at this point. But because it's always fun just trying to figure out what exactly it is that makes a player pop.
You don't got to tell me, man. I'm WHL over every hockey league.
Right. Exactly. There you go. But it's funny because like they've obviously amassed this incredible prospect pool where like, people had their beef with some of the picks this year. At the same time, they just filled every hole that they had in their prospect pool by bringing in a bunch of big centers who can fucking play, by the way. But the luxury that comes with, and also what kind of annoys people, is the fact that now they have time for these guys to continue to develop. They're not in a rush to get them into the NHL because they need them. They've got plenty of talent on their roster as is, but once you have a prospect pool like this, and we're starting to see it now with some of the prospect, like the defensemen specifically, the last few years, they really like juiced that pool.
Yeah.
Where you're seeing them like at this point move on from a kid like Marshall Ward. Obviously they didn't sign him, so I believe actually they just lost his rights. Maybe
they must have. Yeah.
I think either that or the next few days, but now you're giving,
right? They just like,
he's so good. He's awesome. Yeah. I love that kid. I'm very excited for him he's doing his fifth year at Michigan now. But you buy yourself time for these guys to develop. And there's so many instances where, like, if you're going to rank a prospect pool, the guy that you've got ranked like 16th, now that you've given them time, they may develop, whether it's like they grow or they've just added some tools to their tool bag or whatever it is. Like, you motherfucker, Cosgrove. I saw that coming. I was like, the second that came out of my mouth, I was like, oh no. But you're seeing some of these guys who like maybe you don't at first rate them as high as some of the other prospects, they end up really like jumping over some guys because you've given them time to develop, and you're not like whether it's micromanaging their development or rushing them. Like the more time they have to develop, play in the AHL or their junior leagues, like we're seeing it now with a kid like Hayden Bank here. I mean, he out of nowhere just, lit it up. Obviously last year, the WHL filled in a role for Canada at the World Juniors, was a big part of that team, even though he wasn't putting up points, but he found a way to fit in. And now he's going to go to the AHL. We'll see what happens there. But because you've built up such a strong prospect pool and because you don't have to rush everybody, it's a pretty good problem to have when you've got like 10 guys. You're like, man, this kid could be a top 6 center. Wait, but we obviously not all of them are going to be a top 6 center, at least in our organization. So you're buying yourself time where like they're building up value. Obviously, other teams really covet those prospects. And like we saw it happen with like the Kings let Brock Faber go, who is incredible and is about to probably be your number 4 defenseman next year in Minnesota.
Oh yeah, he's
and they bring in right. So like, not only do you have pieces that you're looking at saying like, man, if he just continues to develop, you've got legit like top 6 forward, top 4D, elite like goaltender potentially for the future. But at the same time, we've also got a potential trade chip of the future to bring in some other, piece that we're missing on our current lineup, right? So like that worked out pretty well for both LA and Minnesota, the Faber Fiala plus a first round pick trade, where you're bringing in like Brock Faber, and then you get, what was it, the Yurov piece? Was that the pick? Either way, it was either Yurov or Ohgren. But long story short there, like having all these prospects that, yes, it's frustrating that some of them aren't playing, but you're also giving yourself time, letting them develop. You're not rushing them in. And like patience tends to really pay off, where like some guys that you're not expecting to pop over other guys do. So it's a good problem to have. It's frustrating when you think like a bunch of guys are ready to play and there's just no opportunity for them there. But I do think it's going to pay off big time in the long run. And it also helps that like right now they're competitive. Like it's not they're terrible right now and they're like,
you're relying on them
all these pieces. Right. Exactly. So, I mean, it's kind of like a win-win. Obviously, you want to see the NHL team take a big step, especially when you've got like Kaprizov's prime years. Like Zuccarello somehow continues to put up like 0.7 points per game.
I love him. I loved him in New York. I loved his story and the fact that when the Wild got him right when I started, honestly, literally the season I started doing the Sota Pod is when they acquired him, and there was so much flack. Even Hoppy and I were like, love the player, hate the contract, dude. What a duo! Now we'll never crack the top 10 best duo in NHL history. And shout out to the Berkeley hockey boys. We actually, Hoppy and I jumped on their show and just did actually a snake draft of our best duos in NHL history. And obviously they were in the honorable mention, but in Wild history, no doubt. And it's crazy that it's 2 freaking wingers, man. Yeah. And it's textbook Minnesota because they're never going to have a center. Anyways, we're getting behind some of the comments and questions here, Z. So let's keep firing through them. Whoever says Boldy has played his best when he has had a speedy winger on his line, Fiala and JoJo. Which prospect has the speed to maximize Boldy's game in a couple of years? Yeah, I mean, this is another fun part of having a prospect pool. It's actually legitimately fun for me to sit. So some of the things just to keep myself occupied really in the summer and just to kind of think of ideas later on. I mean, even whether it's for podcasts or just trying to predict who's going to fit in where is part of the fun part of having this deep pool is mapping out a U23 roster, guys in the pool that are under 23 right now that you're projecting 4 to 5 years. And it's always fun because first of all, Matt Boldy's already incredible and he's so young. So there are a few guys, if you want to go the speedy route, who knows what Murat Huzadinov ends up being in terms of, is he a center, is he wing? He's this was the first year that he took a huge step to make me believe, even though he's so, I mean, I don't give a fuck about size, but how many 5'9" centers are there in the NHL? I don't know. But he's also shown that whether he's center, whether he's wing, it doesn't matter. He just kind of does his thing and he is who he is. That's an interesting one too, where not only is that a duo that would put up good offensive production, but are both elite defensive forwards too. Huzadinov, bit more of a playmaker than a pure scorer. So
Boldy's kind of that dual threat, so that's always a fun option. Another kid, though, is Liam Ohgren, just a pure sniper. And that's one guy that we could talk about. I clipped up his first game with Farjestad.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go off. Really well.
He just started.
He played really well, yeah.
Yeah, his season just kicked off. We'll continue with me and Mark's question after. But yeah, let's talk about Ohgren for a little bit.
Yeah, real quick. And I actually cut up about 10 minutes worth of his shifts from that first competitive kind of game with Farjestad. They won 3-0. He had a really nice primary assist, but like he was all over the ice. I think he played 14, 15 minutes, 8 shot attempts, 4 on net, assist. I think he had like 70% of the expected goals when he's on the ice. Shout out Sport Contract where that's my new Instat, because Instat priced us the fuck out. Jesus Christ. But he was phenomenal his first real appearance. And I mean, he was even in like a middle to bottom 6 role there, but every time he was on the ice, like even things I haven't really seen him excel at in the past, where like defensively, he was a beast. He was laying the body, like super physical on the forecheck too. F1 in there, winning pucks, like so many dangerous chances he was creating. So it was really exciting to see. And again, like the fact that he played as well as he did last year. Now he's going to go do it in the SHL. So it's kind of a nice progression where like he was legitimately setting records in the J20 his draft year. Goes to the Allsvenskan, hurt at the beginning of the year. But once he got healthy, was immediately one of their best wingers, started scoring at a ridiculous clip, was almost at a point per game in the playoffs. Now he gets to go do the SHL. It's a really nice progression where you're thinking how he's, especially now, how he's really approached the game and how he plays and like the maturity that he has. It shouldn't take him too long to be like just about NHL ready. So that's another guy too, though, like going back to that question, I think depending on who that center is, that could be a really, I mean, it could be Eriksson Ek, dude, and that would be a legit line and like effective at both ends of the ice, can log tons of minutes. They're all big. They're capable of playing physical. Like that would be a very, very good line. We've got Boldy making plays and scoring, Eriksson Ek pissing everyone off and going net front and scoring goals that way. Liam Ohgren sniping. So that's another kid that would be a good option there too. And then, getting away from the speed factor though, and I've said this before, I love the idea of a future line of Beckman, Rossi, and Boldy, because they had like a couple games where they played together 2 years ago in the AHL, and holy shit, they were phenomenal. Oh, there you go. Robinson already brought it up. Dude, it was so fun to watch when those 3 were playing together. Yes, it was the AHL and whatever, but like the few games where they had shifts together, it was unbelievable. I mean, I think they had the puck the whole fucking time they were on the ice. But again, I think the good thing about Boldy is, he's played well with speedy wingers, but I think that's really just been like Fiala. And I mean, hey, he played great with Johansson, and Johansson's a speedy winger, which I would assume that they're going to be together again this year, and hopefully with Eriksson Ek. And again, that line was great when they were together. Yeah. So I'm excited about that too. I think Boldy can fit in with just about anybody really if you give him, time to adapt.
Anybody but Brock Besser, because that guy does not have wheels. He ain't the fastest winger.
Oh, God.
With Huznadinov coming over next year. And thanks for all the questions, guys. Keep them coming. And expected to join the big club in Mini. Could we see him in a top line role right away? I could see him being a Zuccarello replacement if he keeps regressing. Well, I mean, hey, I just want to say right away, Zuccarello's not regressing. So why are you saying?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. So that's one thing with Huznadinov I'm very curious to see. Like, again, I just said this, but like last year really gave me belief that he has potential to be a center at the NHL.
I love him, by the way, Z. He's my favorite Wild prospect.
He's phenomenal. He's so good, dude. Like, Huznadinov is legitimately unbelievable. Where like for a kid as small as he is, you kind of forget when you watch him just because how he plays. But
no, totally.
Yeah, it'll be so. And Huznadinov again, like he was one that like literally he's such a good kid too. Like Wild fans were DMing him on like Instagram and Twitter, being like, "Hey, you're gonna come over?" Like after like clearly just like PTSD from Kaprizov, like taking 7 fucking years. Like like people like, hey man, so like, are you gonna come over to play the NHL, or like you gonna come to North America when your contract's up next year? And he was responding like, yep, like yes I am. I cannot wait to come to America and play for the Minnesota Wild. Blah blah blah.
What a beauty, dude.
So obviously it sucked when he signed that contract, but at the same time, for a kid with that profile,
look at this shit.
And where he was in his development, it really ended up being like a 2-year extension ended up being the perfect timeline for him to really play, because the KHL, that's a no shit legit top 4 league in the world, probably a top 3 league in the world. And he's playing hard minutes over there too. And now he's elevated in that top 6 role. He's playing both center, playing at the wing as well. So and with how well he played last year, and like look at the production jump. Obviously he wasn't hurt, which helped, but once they gave him that elevated role, I mean, he took it, ran with it. And again, it didn't matter if he was a center, a wing, he was in your third line, second line, first line, did not matter. Like, he's so fucking dependable and reliable that he just was succeeding in any role that he was put in. But with the timeline of him signing that 2-year extension, his like major development years, he's playing in a top 3 league of the world, and he's already excelling. So the timeline ended up being perfect. So I'm really curious to see like how quickly because I do think he can probably, if he stays healthy this year and continues to progress, like he's going to be pretty much NHL ready right away. And I'm curious to see if that is like at the top of that lineup. I don't know. Again, it feels like a middle 6 just to get his feet under, because like as good as the KHL is, it's still a very different league to the NHL. That's a phenomenal Cosgrove. So I'm curious to see. I think he will be able to come right over and play.
Oh yeah, dude, 32 playoff games too in the K, and he's 21. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you're not gonna get that development anywhere else. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the year he got drafted, that next season, before he got hurt, he was playing a couple KHL games, and then he had that ridiculous shoulder injury, and he came right back. Like, he fucking immediately came back too.
And he took that puck to the face too and came back like, was it same game or the next game? Like, dude, like he is like, he's developed in Russia. He's Russian as shit, but he's got that North American grip, man. Like, he's gonna be fine in the National League. I'm positive. John saying, so will Riley Heidt beat out some of these center prospects in 2 years, or is that wishful thinking? Another awesome pick, by the way, by the Minnesota Wild. Loved that. Like, I love that kid, and he did so well with the Cougars last year. I grew up in Prince George for about 6 years. I lived in Prince George, Z. So like, I miss Chara when he played there, but I saw Bufflin, Hamhuis, like all like. Was Willie Mitchell also? I think Willie Mitchell was also with the Cougars. Like, they were all there at the same time. And so like big Prince George Cougars guy before, going to college in Victoria. Literally my first year of college in Victoria, the Royals came in. So that was just lucky for me. But I always keep tabs on PG, and like, I loved this kid. Like, I didn't follow the draft as much as obviously you and Hoppy did last year. But like, you better believe I knew who this kid was.
Yeah. And so again, like, people had their beef with some of the picks, but again, like those first 3 picks in Heidt, Kumpalainen, and Stramel, like, if you told me that they got those 3 players and you didn't tell me the order, like, yeah, that makes sense. But it'll be interesting because, like, again, Height's another guy. Like, it'll be interesting to see if he winds up as a center, because he is an elite playmaker, but that shot is unbelievable too. Another sniper. I mean, was legitimately insane this year in the WHL, and Prince George is a really fucking hard team to play on, like, with like the travel to WHL too.
Yeah, they're up there. They're up.
And
there.
He was top 5. Like, and I mean, I think he had like almost 70 assists or something like that.
CN Center, by the way, awesome rink. One of the best I've ever gone to. Mind you, I was super young when I obviously like lived there, but apparently they have like a Prince George is like the sports hub of like northern BC, man. It's like it has a semi-pro indoor soccer league, and they play in the CN Center with turf. But like, so they upgraded like the whole arena, like I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago for that shit, and like put in like awesome like cameras and stuff like that to broadcast it. I believe on like YouTube or like Twitch or whatever. So just it is a hockey like smaller like Canadian town hockey vibe, like through and through. And it's awesome. Like Friday nights, you generally have the Spruce Kings playing downtown, and then just up the highway, you have the Cougars playing dub, usually Saturdays, and midweek. So it's just such a cool vibe to play in PG.
Sick. I didn't know that. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see with height though, like because he's got no shit legit upside. I just with the amount of like centers they brought in, and people forget Eriksson Ek's only like what 20s, like 25, 26. Like he's gonna be here for a long time, obviously. So you're like firmly your second line center already. You've got Marco Rossi, like you've got a ton of centers already. So I'll be curious to see, but he does have legit high-end top 6 upside. So we'll see what happens. There's no reason to believe that he can't do it. It's just a matter of, again, like this is part of the having a super deep prospect pool. There's plenty of time for him to earn that spot. There's plenty of time for other guys to also earn that spot. So he has the upside though. There's legit upside with him to be a top 6 center.
O'Rourke or Hunt, who do you think gets a call up first?
I'd probably say a kid like Daemon Hunt.
He's earned it for sure.
Yeah, and they both played really well last year. And I've talked about this ad nauseum at this point on this podcast, like since like the first few games of AHL. Like I was really curious to see how Daemon Hunt would play because, I mean, again, like, it's fine. I mean, I literally say this every time we bring him up, which is essentially every episode. But like, the stuff he was doing in the WHL was just never going to work. Not even like certainly not in the NHL, but not even in the AHL either. But he just like immediately stepped into a super mature game, like reliable at both ends of the ice. Like obviously they didn't light it up for points or anything like that. Only a handful of defensemen really do with Iowa. Yeah. But yeah, no, I just think at this point with where he is and the style of game that he plays, I would assume a kid like Daemon Hunt probably would get a call up before Ryan O'Rourke. Cause like Ryan O'Rourke is a defensive defenseman. That's a fucking hard, really, really hard role to step into as a young defense in the NHL, where Daemon Hunt, you're not necessarily leaning on him super heavily to be a like a stay-at-home D-man. So I think you can probably like shield him a little bit more, but I would say at this point probably Daemon Hunt. But again, I still love both of those players.
For sure. I mean, I like Daemon Hunt too. Like again,
he is a Western League old school beauty.
Yeah,
dude.
exactly.
He loves that shit.
I do. Like I'm literally pouring one out for Moosehead right now because we're not going to see those players fighting in the queue anymore. So
and you know what? I have to bring it up because please every time I say Daemon Hunt's name, I have to bring it up. The most electrifying D pair in the CHL that year was him and Dent Matejchuk 2 years ago. Unfucking believable. The fact that they were both like almost scoring 20 goals. Like, look at 17 dude. In 46 games.
It's nuts.
Him and Matejchuk, they're like both left shot D-men, like both play like 30 minutes a night in Moose Jaw that year. And like they were F1 and F2 on the forecheck, which he was so good, dude. He was so fucking good. His dad's a beauty too.
Oh yeah.
Look at that flow on Huntsia.
Dude, I know. He's got a I always forget about that feature.
Man, if he can fucking stay healthy, and he did for the most part this past year, so good for him.
Yeah. All right, whoever. Should the Wild just back up the Brinks truck for Kaprizov when he becomes extension eligible? Is it even worth negotiating too much and letting him walk to UFA? I mean, I don't think they even have to worry about that. I don't think that's even like on the list of worries for Billy Guerin right now. But Z, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's already making what 9.5.
I mean, look, if the cap goes up, he might ask for a few more million if they re-sign him. But like, you know, if he wants 10, if he wants 11, I don't give a fuck. Yeah. Especially with the cap going up, it's pretty much going to be like
he will always be, as long as he is on the Wild, he's going to be their highest paid player. That's fine. Yeah. Because I would say he has more than earned it.
Absolutely.
That kid is fucking unbelievable. I can't believe how fucking good it is.
So I got friends who watch my fight channel, the Sid Light Project, who are also like, there's a lot of Canadians who tune in as well, and they're all naturally hockey fans. My boy Jay Herbo, he's a huge Edmonton guy, despite living in Ontario, which, hey, I'm not a big Edmonton fan, but I will respect that. You know, if you live in Ontario and don't follow the Leafs, I respect you more than anybody.
It's a great move.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And he said that Kaprizov is his top 3 favorite players right now. Like,
dude, he is electrifying.
Yeah. So this like Canadian kid in Ontario who follows Edmonton, and his top 3 or top 5 player, one of his top 3, top 5 players is Kaprizov. Like, and he's a younger cat too, early 20s, and it's cool to see that like he's making waves in Canada, outside of the Minnesota Wild market. And if I just wish the National Hockey League promoted him more. Like it do you like have to be a center or a high scoring defenseman to be promoted by the NHL? Like, what the fuck is this?
I mean, I think that his rookie year, I think they did, because it was insane what he did stepping in, him and
Robertson. Actually, they did Robertson dirty that year. You're right. Dude, I will never let that go. I won't bore the listeners with that right now, but I will never let that go. By the way, biggest Charlie Stramel fan or supporter right here. My dad had both him and his mom in class during his time as a teacher. Kid's a beauty, and I hope he tears it up in Wisconsin.
Right.
In some head. Hell yeah, dude. We're big Charlie fans here as well. Obviously, like you guys know, and if you don't know, now you know. I'm a big fan of like that brand of hockey, and the way Z described his U18 performance this summer, or the Helenka, and it was the World Junior qualifiers, and like whatever the
summer showcase.
Showcase, yes. I remember the best summer showcase I watched. I went on this 7-day hike in the bush, and we got off the hike. It's like, again, 7 days of eating freeze-dried food and all that shit. We went to a pub. I drank like 4 or 5 beers, ate 3 poutines, and got to watch that entire tournament. So I always will cherish that moment, a little Canadian heritage moment there. But you said he tore it up there and was just a menace, like a fearful figure on the ice there. So that's awesome to hear.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if he like lit it up. In his role, he did exactly what was expected. Again, I think he's taken a massive step, just like maturity wise, from like the penalties that he takes, because, and like, this is another thing that's so funny to me about like people like really shitting themselves over the pick. He's like a shoo-in for the World Juniors this year. It'll be his 3rd fucking World Juniors, and he just got drafted. Like, that's crazy. It's amazing. A lot of that had to do with the fact that they had a summer World Juniors a couple of years ago, or last year, I guess. Holy shit, that feels like it was fucking 3 years. That was so worst, the worst World Juniors of all time.
Well, it's because we'll come off like the Stanley Cup high, and then the draft
sucked so bad. Yeah. That was the worst. But either way,
this year's Felt Normal was awesome, and I was running around my house, swinging my Canadian flag, pissing off my roommates. It was awesome.
Yeah, this is going to be another good one too. The U.S. is going to be
I'm terrified of the U.S. this year, because Canada always has a good crop. Let's be honest, but like last year was one of those was one of those top rosters. One of those memorable ones for Canada that you look back on and go like, fucking Stankoven was on like the 3rd line. He was just absolutely dominating everybody. Love that kid.
Beauty.
What some other comments we got here? Keep them coming, guys. By the way, Z loves Lambo so much just because of Marchand also being a Lamborghini.
That's a good one. It's a good pull.
Ryan saying I live in Northern Canada and a lot of my buddies love Kaprizov. Dude, that's awesome. Yeah. Ryan, first off is intriguing. Yes.
I don't think you will ever. Listen, I've been a massive first off guy since he was at UConn. I don't think you'll ever see him in a Minnesota Wild jersey ever.
It's a shame because he's damn good.
I mean, who knows? Who knows? Because he's young and whatever. I think he pissed off the organization a lot.
How so though? Like what like pull the
curtain. He played. I mean, I'm not gonna pretend like I was there. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I know exactly what happened. I am sure now you're gonna fucking take a video of this and then fucking thumbnail.
I'm already on Canva right now making it.
Essentially the commentary from what, and I'm gonna say it's all speculation.
Yes.
Actually, I'm gonna go the full Doug McLean. Shout out Doug McLean. What a beauty that guy is. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just telling you it's what I heard. So he got his first game last year, he played the first game of the year, and basically was like, "Fuck this! I didn't get enough ice time," and just went back to the KHL. He was like, "Fuck you." which is like kind of funny. Like for me, I'm like, that's really funny. But like just through it was just like, fuck this. I don't want to.
Fuck Iowa, dude. This Field of Dreams made it look like it was way better.
Again, I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying it's what I heard. Shout out
First
to
of all,
but apparently, like,
oh man,
which it doesn't. If that is I'm not saying that's how it happened, but like essentially that was the speculation. I'll say that came out. If he was truly like, fuck this, is there like knowing Bill Guerin as well as Wild fans do at this point? Because is there another GM in the league that makes himself more accessible to like interviews, by the way, and like gives really fun interviews?
Oh no, because Bill Guerin, like, he knows all the stuff. Yeah, because he was so like
funny.
Well, it's because he was a player. He clearly is a fan of the sport and the league as well. Because
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. He's a Massachusetts guy. He's a fucking beauty. That's why, boys.
He likes to stir the pot.
If there's one thing, if that's how, if again, that was obvious. I'm not suggesting that's exactly how it happened, but again, a lot was asked of him. And he was like, "Fuck this!" Like basically, he just like fucking said, "Nope, I'm done. I'm going back. I'm going back to fucking Russia." If there's one thing that's gonna piss off Bill Guerin, that's gonna be the thing. Like so. And I asked someone that would know. I was like, so first off, probably done. Like, we'll probably never see him in a Wild sweater. And he just goes, yeah, very unlikely. I was like, well, that sucks, dude. That blows. I invested a lot of time into scouting first off the last few years.
Oh yeah, me too.
That's the biggest disappointment, I'm sure, for all of Wild Twitter. Is my own sweat
shit, man. Two segments in a row on Sound the Foghorn. He was my number one prospect for the Minnesota Wild. My heart is broken.
I will tell you, I got a press pass at ULOL to see him in person for the first time, and that must have been yeah. I went because at that point I was living right next to Lowell, so I got the press pass for that one. That had to have been first off's worst performance of his. He got benched for 2 games after that game. Like, I think every time the puck went past like the red line into the defensive zone, he just changed. He was like, "Fuck this!" It's like went off the edge. He literally got benched immediately.
Well, Kostison
got sat out the next game. The next game after that. And then when he came back, he went from being their first line left wing to their 4th line PK guy. But he played phenomenal that game when he came back from being fucking benched. Dude, Kavanaugh, the coach for UConn, was losing. I was just like sitting in the press box like, oh my God, I can hear Kavanaugh screaming at him.
Yeah.
It was so bad. Of course, the first time I see him in person, the worst performance of all time. Immediately he gets benched for 2 games.
That sucks. When he was in his second,
first really good, man. He's so good.
No, when he was in his second year, actually, we never got him on the podcast, but I was in touch with one of the trainers there at UConn, and he said like he had nothing but good things to say about him. And then one of actually my little sister's friend, she graduated with him, Carter Turnbull. He was playing in the ECHL. He played in Slovakia last year, but he was captain here. Turnbull, yeah, he played in Slovakia last year. He split South Carolina and Slovakia. Played 6 games with
Turnbull's a good player, man.
No, he was, and he played on because in Canada there's so many IHF international Western World tournaments and things like that. So he played on various Canada A and Canada B teams. Ripped it up with Powell River in the BCHL, and so he was captain. I think by year 2 or year 3 for Connecticut. He played. I think he played the full 5 years there, and he had, and I reached out to him too, because I'd always talk to him when he was playing in Powell River, and he said he had nothing good things to say about him as well. He said what did he say? He's like, he's your typical tracksuit wearing, Russian kid in college. Like, he's a beauty. Everyone loves him here. But yeah, that's so
he's
funny.
A fucking good. He played so well last year in the KHL too.
Oh yeah.
But so I mean, realistically, again, that's why I say who knows. You never know. Time heals all wounds.
I just can't believe he pulled the Kostitsin, dude. You remember, like, just straight up gave up on the play? Here, I have the video here. I might have to like pause and play here because YouTube and their stupid restrictions. But like, so here it is. So Kostitsin right here.
This is the greatest change of all time.
Okay. All right, I'm done. And it was against the Oilers. Like the Oilers were so bad back then too. Like, are you kidding me, dude? I remember fucking Trotz just giving it to him after that, man. Like, oh my goodness.
That change should have landed him in the Hall of Fame.
Dude, what, like, I mean, those
brothers as a menace to society.
Both of them, Andre and Sergei, like, they had all the talent in the world, but just absolute menaces.
Two of the craziest motherfuckers of all time.
Yeah, I mean, like, Andre, like, was so good with Montreal, but
dude, I love first off too. Like, dude, I'm telling you, his last year at UConn, every big game, dude, that kid came to play. In like all the Hockey East playoff games, scored. And like not just the the kid's legitimately like insanely talented. So, he's not the goals that he was scoring in the playoffs, they weren't like, taking it at the dot and like ripping one shelf or like dancing guys. He was going net front and like tipping pucks. And that kid with every celly, he pumps so hard. Like, it was awesome, dude. Like he was working
like a Nisimov hard.
He was so good. Oh yeah,
nice.
Oh, yeah.
The fucking shotgun in that Rangers
game. He plays with so much fuck you in his game too. Like there was another kid. The next time I watched him live, he was so good. I could not believe he didn't get a penalty that game. Like he was legitimately two-hand chopping guys in the hands when the refs weren't looking. Like after the puck was frozen, he's like starting scrums and then just like going away. Like, oh, he's such
no wonder the boys loved him, dude. No wonder the boys loved him in the locker room. They're like, this dirty fuck, he like gets away with everything. Are you kidding me?
That's the thing. Like that's why I'm sitting here saying, yeah. And again, when I asked the person who would know.
Yeah,
they were like, yeah, I think he kind of fucked that up forever. At the same time, he's young, like so
he might come crawling back.
But yeah, and I mean and again, like that might be the one situation where it's like, well, the really super fucking deep prospect pool might fuck you over there.
Yeah,
but dude, he's such a good fucking hockey player. Like, I completely played one game, goes fuck you, then went back to Russia. It's such a funny move. Like, how many Russian kids come over and play college hockey? No, so you're like, oh wow, this kid just wants to be it. Nope. He was like, yeah, fuck you guys. Fuck Iowa, this sucks.
Like I said, he watched Field of Dreams and was like, all right, this ain't too bad, and then was like, oh, this is not.
I don't like this. I don't like this at all. Meanwhile, hey, fucking Hovinov, when he was here, he may have done essentially nothing that anyone asked of him, but there was no better teammate than fucking Hovinov. He was literally getting scratched for being out of shape and being slow. And the camera would go to him after, like, he's in the stands. Like, he's not even in the press box. He's just, like, in the stands. And the camera would go to him after the Wild scored, after Iowa scored.
Yeah.
And he's just like, fuck yeah! Like, he's losing his mind, dude. He's just, like, a team guy through and through, but he will eat those fucking burgers. Don't ask me.
Yeah,
that's so funny. That's so funny that they were like, hey, man, you need to start eating healthy. He goes, okay. And the next day, fucking Tim Army sees him fucking just, like, hammering a like ice cream and smoothie. Like, fucking hey Tim, hey coach, how are you?
He's got it still like all over.
That's
his
almost.
Face. He's got like mustard and shit all over his face. Sorry, coach. What's up?
Yeah. Dude, it's like the what's the phrase? It's a lesser version of the Dustin Byfuglien story.
Oh my God.
In Chicago, they were like, hey man, you gotta get in shape, you gotta start eating healthy. He's like, all right. And then the fucking like someone in their management sees him at the fucking Chicago Cubs game with like 4 meat sandwiches in his hand, hammered. He's just
dude, the picture when he went to whose wedding was it? Like the infamous picture, right? When he's at the wedding in the offseason, is like he's in the double XL, maybe even triple XL shirt there. still popping buttons, and they're like, wait, this guy's got a month and a half to get back in shape for camp. Like, but you know what's crazy is some athletes can get it done. And again, for someone here who I obviously I follow a lot of combat sports, dude, there's for every weight class, Z, and for those listening, this is what's actually crazy about these fighting athletes. Like, they not only have to fight in a cage on Saturday, but like the Friday before, some of them cut up to like 30 pounds. And then balloon back up, right? And I know it's huge in college wrestling too, but like some of them balloon back up. Like there's one guy, he fights at 145. So he makes weight at 145. Guess his weight when he enters the cage 24 hours later. 185, dude. And it's just like, that is insane. So to suggest like a hockey player with the right nutritionist couldn't, like, you know, get back into shape, or at least cut a lot. I mean, Byfuglien did, clearly. And then, you know, Byfuglien's first months were never the most productive. You know, he had to marinate into a season. And when he did, like, what an absolute...
Well, I mean, he put up 20 goals as a fucking winger.
Dude, well, he was so fast for how big he was. Honestly, like, it was crazy.
Yeah, he's a fucking animal. He's the best, dude. I love that guy.
Do you know his stories about George? Like,
I'm so happy for Byfuglien, by the way, like, that he went out when he was like, I'm done.
Oh yeah. And now he's just
and they're like, oh, contract disputes, contract, like, well, money. He was like, I don't give a fuck, dude. I'm gonna go fish. I don't care.
Yeah, now he's just got homes in Winnipeg and Minnetonka now, just chilling. No, dude. So there's more to this, but like, long of the short of it, like, he was pulling first off when he like got sent to Prince George. He did not want to be there, to the point where like he brought a garbage bag of clothes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, I know that, like, you know, I'm just gonna show this franchise that, like, I don't want to be here at all. And props, I forget who was managing the team at the time, but they were like, dude, I don't care if you don't bring a fucking toothbrush, you know, like your jammies, like we will give you hockey gear, and we're gonna put you out there and you're gonna play with us. You can go out, you can try not to be here, but at the end of the day, he was that type of competitor where as soon as he hit the ice, he played. It was just awesome. He was such a menace the first 2 years in PG.
I love every time I hear an interview where Dustin Byfuglien's brought up from someone that knows him. I love, because they're like, dude, that guy is as good as he is, as like in this league, is when he was at his best, like one of the biggest animals. He was filthy. He doesn't know fuck all about hockey.
No,
he's like, when he was coming to the league, they were like, you know, bringing up like whoever at that point when he was that young was like the best player in the league. He's like, huh? I don't fucking know, dude. They're like, I don't think he's ever watched a hockey game in his life.
No, his draft interviews are insane. Like Chicago. I remember Bowman talking about it. Like, they're like, this kid, like, no X's and O's, had no idea like who was drafting who, didn't even want to report at that time, because at that point he was like, oh, fuck it, like, PG's home. Like,
yeah, how fucking insane that is, that the kid like could be that clue sounds mean, but he legitimately was like, I don't fucking know, and he's just that insanely talented. Like, oh, guy's the best. The league really missed out on like marketing the ever living dog shit out of Dustin Byfuglien. That's the guy they should have been hammering home, like, all the marketing in the world. That guy should be on he should still be on fucking NHL 2K, whatever the fuck covers.
Oh yeah,
every fucking video game.
He should be an
NHL 24. Put him on the cover.
He should be an unlockable character every time. This happened in Vancouver, by the way.
Beauty. He's the one that threw fucking Evander Kane's like really nice suit in the shower.
He's like, where are you from? Chelyabinsk? Like, get the fuck out of here, you Canadian. Like, get that tracksuit out of here. Like,
there's one of my favorite pictures of Dustin Byfuglien ever is he's in the locker room. He's got a beanie on over one ear, his Under Armour on, the biggest chain on planet Earth out, and he's got, I think he put a full can of like Grizzly. I'm sure there's no flavor. Or no, you know what? He's definitely a straight Copenhagen. Right here. And he's just like, it's the best picture ever. That guy's the best. I love that guy. But anyways, we can We can get to these questions.
Yeah, we got two more. We got two more here.
I love, by the way, that we touched on 0 things in the outline.
I love it. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Hoppy, for making the outline.
Yeah, dude, I literally did like half an hour research on these two prospects, which I'm not even upset about. I know who they are now, so there you go. John, I'm guessing Billy Guerin hopes Stramo can become a clone of Joel Otto circa 89 Flames Cup team. Deep dive there, love it. Unheralded, immovable beast in the face-off dot, old-time hockey. I love that deep cut, by the way. Back when, late 80s, early 90s Flames, man. Whew. They're fun to watch.
Hey, my go-to every time someone asks me if I could get one jersey, which I guess I could do, but they're like, what's the first jersey you're buying? I'm like, no questions asked. Hakan Lube, 89 Flames. That guy he only played for a couple of years in the league, and he was filthy.
Dude, that's a good deep cut too. My God.
His nephew is going to be draft eligible. His last name's not Lube, though. 2025, I think.
Okay. Dude, what a beauty.
Yeah, look at his stats, dude. He's fucking
what a beauty.
Yeah.
106 points. What?
Yep. People forget, dude. People forget.
Dude, Mean Mark, you're an absolute beauty, buddy. Look at this. Right into Z's pocket again, fucking dude. Look at this, boys. Got to go get ready for work, but I appreciate the hockey talk. Don't get much of it out here on the West Coast. Have a good night, boys. Hey, West Coast. Let's go, baby. Thank you so much for the support, buddy. Appreciate it. Hope to see you next Thursday. Well, I won't be here next Thursday. Hoppy will be back. But every Thursday, guys, 7 o'clock Eastern, Z and Hoppy jump on here for Judd'z Budz. I fill in for Hoppy whenever he's unavailable, but appreciate it. Mean Mark, happy to answer all your questions. And last but not least here, I hope you catch this one before you go to work here, but what's Kalen Addison's ceiling? I think his floor is what we saw this season, running a good power play while being less than sturdy on defense. What exactly do we envision his ceiling being with this team? Key words, with this team.
Yeah. And let's do this one, and then I want to go back to the Stramo thing.
Sure.
So, like that question mentioned at the end there, like, he's never going to be a stout, reliable defenseman. But guess what? He does the one thing that quite literally 0 defensemen on the NHL team right now can do, which is run the power play.
Yeah.
So I think his ceiling is like, a guy that, yes, he's going to live on the power play.
Like a Sammy Salo type guy?
Because of the tools that he has, I think you can make him, given enough rope, really, I think he can be a competent defenseman. And here's the other thing too. We want to bring up that prospect pool. There's enough defensemen they have in their pool that, like, you can absolutely shield him. Like, so I was, again, like, just like everyone else, flabbergasted when they brought in Klingberg, right? Yeah. Now, they paid nothing for him, so I was all about it. But, realistically, I guess, Kalen Addison could be a Klingberg. Where, like, because the stuff that he can do at the blue line, his skating ability, his creativity with the puck, his mobility along the, like, left to right, like, lateral movement, deception, the shot is crazy. He can, like, be a dynamic playmaker from the blue line. Like, he's legit, man. Like, and he's already shown at 20 of last year, he was 22 years old. He was running that first PP unit, and he was almost at a point per game like through the first 15 games of the year.
He was 5th in scoring 20 or 30 games in. Like,
yeah, for rookies, yeah. Like, it's
no, at one point on the team, dude.
Like,
yeah. Like, right. On the Wild team, and obviously in rookie scoring too, he was up there. Like, there was a conference. Like, look, he was never going to win the. Honestly though, I take that back. This year was so thin. If he was in a position to succeed and didn't have, I don't know what the drama was. I don't know what your source says about that either, Z. But, like, he quite possibly could have been in the running with how thin the Calder race was this year. It's insane. He didn't play the second half of the season pretty much. It's insane.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, again, for me, this kid should have been in the lineup. I can totally, and I want to say, like, this is something that, like, when he first started getting scratched, by the way, look at that progression of the hair.
Oh, I know.
It's so funny. It's unbelievable. And I think, like, when he first started getting scratched again, I want to say, like, LaPanta and Russo hashed this out ad nauseum, and very predictable takes on both ends. But it wasn't that, like, he was getting scratched for the defensive mishaps. It was the timing, where, like, it wasn't as though he started off the year, like, the first 10 games, he was a beast on his own end, like, in his own end, and then he stopped caring. It wasn't like he was bringing less to the table off it. Like, the timing of the scratching made no sense at all. And then they completely lost faith with him and put him back in the lineup with, like, the shittiest timing. Like, hey, we're playing this elite team. Let's throw Addison back in. But
we're going to give you hard matchups here. There you go.
Shockingly enough, the first 15, 20 games there, the power play was back to being at worst league average.
Yep.
But they were at one point playing pretty well, and, like, the power play was clicking how you would expect it to click, because he was the only fucking person on the back end that can run a power play. I love Jared Spurgeon. He's capable of doing it, but it's not a guy that you want to rely on as your power play quarterback. He's not that guy. Calen Addison is. That's his bread and butter. So for me, Calen Addison's a guy that, like, when you're really clicking, you can fit that guy in your fucking lineup. Like, if you want to win in this league, yes, 5-on-5 is the big priority, but you fucking can't be producing like 11% in the power play. How many fucking teams in this league even make the playoffs clicking below 15%, right? And he's already shown at 22 years old, he stepped in as a rookie and was running that power play unit, and I think they were clicking 24% at that point. And he's on the ice for those. So give him the opportunity. Like, how is he going to get better defensively watching from up top? I've never understood that.
I know.
I can understand one or two games, like, hey, like, watch this, right?
And then go over with our video guy. Yeah.
And I really do think with, like, the players that they have, this year is going to be interesting, though, because the third pair, you've got, like, Goligoski or Merrill, which is going to scare the shit out of you. But, you look to the future, like, they've got plenty of players, especially the prospect pool, that their bread and butter is playing the defensive game. You can shield that guy. You can make room for a kid that's going to produce in the power play. Yes, you're going to hold him responsible at some point. You can't have him go, like, full-on Klingberg, obviously. But the stuff that he excels at is like a Klingberg-esque game. So, like, it's funny because I do think he can be a little bit better than Klingberg defensively, because at one point, like, it's funny because, like, all the analytics people, like, no, seriously, in terms of, like, the underlying numbers, he is the worst defensive defenseman of all time. And it's like, holy fuck, like, he's useless. But actually, it's funny enough, though, because all his underlying numbers in the playoffs this year were, like, by far the best on the Wild, which is so funny.
Which is why, like, you can't. You got to use your eyes and the numbers, folks. You can't rely on either or neither alone, because it throws it all out.
But I mean, for me, the Calen Addison can absolutely play in this league. Obviously, we've seen it. He can be a very good first power play quarterback, which is incredibly valuable in this league. Defensively, you're never going to look at him and say he is an elite. You're probably never going to say a great or good defenseman, but that's okay because you don't need him to do that. He definitely needs to improve if he wants to be a player in this league. He absolutely needs to improve on some of the finer points of the defensive game, like just like general reads, coverage. He does need to improve in that if he wants to be a full-time defenseman in the NHL. But I think he's got the foundational tools he's got the talent that he can do that if you let him. And sitting him in the fucking press box is not going to help. Like over and over and over again. Like, it's just not going to do it for him. So I think he can be a good 4 or 5 defenseman, first PP quarterback, because he is that good. Like, I'm telling you, man, like even when he stepped right into the AHL, dude, some of the play, like he would go Sports Center top 10 mode almost every power play. Like he was just walking everybody.
Look at this beauty, dude.
How many times are we just getting? I feel like there's a bunch of people in here for the first time, like watching this shit.
I know it's awesome, by the way. For those new viewers here, please smash that like button on the video. Subscribe to the channel. We're gonna take one more. We're gonna address the.
Well, we've got to go back to the yeah.
We're Stramo Auto that comment, and then Ryan gave us one more. That will be the last comment we address, or else we quite literally will be here all night. And I only have one more beer next to me, so that's
I have a million. I have a million.
I know. Hobby doesn't have and it's probably a good thing. Hobby's got the bourbon and the whiskey over there that I'm not even going to touch because it's, what day is it? Thursday. But guys, if we didn't get your comments on this show, comment them on the video after we're live, and Z and Hoppy will 100% get to them on the next stream, guys. And we really appreciate those who putting some money in Z's pocket here tonight. Look at that, Z. Good luck charm. I don't know. I'm just saying. But all right, let's go back to the stream.
Hoppy's fired. Hoppy's fired.
Yeah. Where was it here? Clone of Joel Otto.
Yeah, so here's the thing about Stramel, right? Like, another thing that I mention every single time that Charlie Stramel comes up, people forget, before his freshman year at Wisconsin, Charlie Stramel was a lock, top 15 first-round pick, because he is huge. He's a good kid, first of all. The way he approaches the game, he's fucking mean, super physical, very good defensively. And with that approach to the game and with his size, he is a very good skater. He's got legit skill, and he can play net front. And he understands, like, the finer points of that, right? Like, it's not a kid that's just good playing in small areas or going net front and producing there and, like, being impactful because he's bigger than everybody. This is a kid that, yes, he's been bigger than everybody forever.
Yeah.
But it's the little things, like just like whether it's the routes he's taking on a forecheck or the way he's approaching the net front, where like his ability like lift sticks, get guys out of the way. It's not just because he's bigger than everybody. He legitimately is super smart. The one thing that's got him in trouble in the past is just like when he was younger, the super bad timing for some of the funniest penalties ever, where he's got a short wick. Like, I mean, his wick is super short and he just starts killing guys.
I love it.
But this year he did take a huge step in that. He's maturity wise. He's going to be a big part of this World Juniors team in a PK role. He's going to be their number one PK guy. But the thing with him is, again, he's 6 foot, 3, 4, 5, whatever the fuck he is, 215 pounds. But he's got crazy hands and skill for a kid his size. He understands the game offensively and defensively, and he moves so well at his side. Like, so he does have such a well-rounded game already. And I think based on just some of the steps he took maturity-wise, over the last couple months, especially. And again, he played great at the World Junior Summer Showcase. Like, another guy that can fit in and be a meaningful part of your team wherever in the lineup he ends up. So I'm sure they're looking at him like a excellent third line center. But at the same time, it's not like he's just a kid that's all fucking murderer. He's not just like meat and potatoes. Like, he brings some interesting aspects to his game with the skill, with the physicality, with the smarts, defensive game. Like, he can really make a difference for you everywhere. So I really do love Charlie Stramel. Did they pass up on some upsides where they took him? Sure. But again, you ended up with Riley Heidt and Kumpalainen with those picks in the first 2 rounds. Like, either way, in any order, that's going to be fine with you. So I do think the Joel Otto thing's really funny. That's a pretty good comp, or a funny comp. But I'm sure they're like, that kid's a no shit NHL player. That's the other thing too. Super high floor. There's questions about the ceiling, but super, super high floor where there's no doubt in my mind that kid plays in the NHL. It is no problems being an NHL player, and a meaningful one that's not just like a fourth line pigeon or a fourth line like fighter, meat potato grinder guy forever, because he does bring a lot to the table at both ends of the ice. So that's why they took it. You heard the comments after too. They were like, with shitty environment that he was in for his fucking draft year. But I mean, the tools are just so intriguing, and like there's proof of concept. But again, it's crazy that he is just been drafted. He's about to play his third fucking World Juniors this winter. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, I think this year is going to be very interesting in Wisconsin because there are some legit players coming too. So,
do you think a comp again strictly on the ice, because off the ice he's gone a little bonkers, but like Simon Gagne, like the way he brings his like tough and skill, like is that a fair comparable?
I don't know. I think at the NHL level, Gagne there's more offense there.
I'm just trying to think of someone who's like Maroon but more skilled. You know what I mean? Where Maroon was skilled like in his early days. Don't get me wrong. Like that's why he's lasted this long, because he's a smart hockey player. Just like he just doesn't have the speed.
I mean, I just think I think it's a mistake to just like go to and I know I'm not saying you brought up like you, and the other reason I say Maroon but with a higher ceiling. Like, I think it would be a mistake to just like use a comp that's like a big
no for sure
fighter guy, because I don't think that's him. Like he's
that's why Maroon wasn't that when he started. Like there was actually a lot of upside to Maroon when he came into the league. I think he had like 40-50 point seasons, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like he was up there.
Oh well, I mean when Edmonton, McDavid was there, he put up 27 goals.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. All right, last question of the night, guys. And again, thank you guys. You guys have flooded the chat. You literally made this you made this show a lot more fun and interesting than it was going to be. Let's just say that. You guys think Yurov will have an elevated role this year? I sure hope so. I've watched him for a while and was ecstatic when we got him. Super talented. Love the speed too.
Oh yeah. I mean, it would be hard for him to play in a lesser role that he played last year. So Metalurg, again, they got a new coach. He signed his extension. He's a year older, so I think he's definitely going to be in an elevated role for sure. And again, like, so interesting thing with Yurov is the comments when he came over, which by the way, the fact that he came over for Dev Camp,
awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
And the comments coming out of Dev Camp is they want to try him at center. They want to try to develop him as a center, which is also incredibly intriguing. And there were a couple of preseason games with Metalurg this year that he's been playing center. So he will definitely be in an elevated role because, again, number one, coaching change is great, but it would be difficult for him to play a lesser role this year than he played last year. But I mean, like you said, the talent is fucking unbelievable. Like, man, even like another kid before his draft year, like coming into the draft season, he was top 8 pick, no doubt. And then Russia they developed their kids super weird. And, Metalurg was kind of like, fuck this guy. He's young. They were like a first place team in his draft year too. So that didn't help him either. Like all they want to do is win. They don't give a fuck about like younger players or whatever, but again, because it would be almost impossible to play a lesser role. Yes, he will certainly. But even just in the preseason, the fact that he's also been at center, he's been playing on the wing, he's playing top 6, middle 6. I certainly would expect him to play an elevated role. And I have to say it every time I talk about Yurov too. I hope people don't expect him to just be like the super skilled, high scoring Russian kid. This kid plays a high end defensive game too. So for me, he's going to be a legit NHLer when he does come over. But yeah, no, he'll definitely be in the elevated role. He's a great player, not just offense. That's every stereotype of a Russian kid is all offense, doesn't give a fuck about his own end. Not the case with Yurov, but yeah, elevated role. I think he's gonna have a monster season, and excited for that like wave of kids coming over to North America, like him, Ohgren, Huzintinov. I love that they're all like poised to come over at the same time because that's just such a good group of player.
Dude, for sure. All right, my final question for you, Z, before we wrap things up: who is your favorite all offense, no defense Russian player? Mine's Alex Semin.
Oh, it's such a good one.
It's like he probably, and I don't think this is a hot take, I think he is or was, is more skilled than Sidney Crosby. He just like there was just nothing else to his game other than like put puck in net and give me the puck to put it in net because I ain't doing anything else. Like that's it. Except for try to fight by playing the bongo drums, ripping off my shirt.
What a clip that was. I don't really know because there's some good ones that came over and got drafted like top 8 who played 0 games in the NHL. Like, who was the fucking kid that there was a kid that Columbus drafted like 3rd or 4th.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Oh man.
He played 0 games. Like did not play.
I totally remember. Yeah, there was because I remember like in like 4 or 5 NHL games, like 2 years before he was drafted and like 2 or 3 years after, he was still rated so high. And I was like, who the fuck is this kid?
Oh, this was like early 2000s.
Okay, because the kid, well, then there's another Russian kid, and like he might have played like fucking 8 games or something. There's another kid like in between 2000, I think 9 and like I want to say 12, who they had in the system, who like again he was like rated like 85, never played a game in the EA game, and I was like, who is this guy? Like, McGillney didn't play. McGillney played defense in his contract years. In that year before he re-upped with the Canucks, oh my God, did he play good defense? And then after that, he's like, all right, I'm rich, bitch. Like,
McGillney, for fuck's sake, put that kid in the fucking Hall of Fame.
Oh, dude, it blows my mind that he's not. Z, fuck, man, we got to bring on. I think we got to bring on Doug Bodger on the Judd'z Budz one time. I'm pretty tight with him. I went to school with his daughter. And he, like, not only was he drafted the same year as Lemieux and was in training camp with him, while Lemieux was smoking cigs on the bench, pissing off the older players, Doug Bodger, like, drafted 8th or 9th overall, was, like, busting his ass to try to make the team. But he also played with McGillney in Buffalo. And he's just got stories for days, man. And, like, good small-town Vancouver Islander Doug Bodger, like, he would tickle Hoppy's fancy in the Pittsburgh talk. And, like, anything, old-school Buffalo or, like, McGillney that you want to dive in with him, I'm sure he'd be happy to crack a few lucky loggers with the boys and dive into it. I should set that up before summer ends because he's just such a beauty. Filatov, yes, thank you, Ryan. That's exactly who I was thinking of. Yes, Filatov.
Oh, Filatov.
You remember him? He had a ton of fucking helium as like one of the most talented Russians to come over and nothing.
He played 53 games in the NHL.
Okay. Well, that's a little bit more than 8, but
you got drafted 6th overall in 08. Yeah. That was a good one.
Jeez. All right, guys. That's it for the show here. Appreciate you all. Smash that like button again. Subscribe to the channel. We literally post clips of all the podcasts on this little podcast community here. The Sota Pod clips, Z clips from Judd'z Budz, some MNCAA clips, and our friends at the Huskies Warming House podcast. We post some of their clips as well. So daily hockey content on this channel. Check us out, the Sota Pod, wherever you get your podcasts from. Every Friday, the audio for Judd'z Budz will air, but we have the Sota Pod every Monday. Brewery Travels talking about craft beer all around the United States with our great host Joel Geyer every Tuesday. Wednesday is kind of an open slot for bonus content. Thursday, MNCAA, and Friday, Judd'z Budz. That's right. We got your hockey fix all summer, all throughout the season. Z, I'll give the last word to you, buddy.
I mean, that was pretty much that was about it, dude. This might be the longest one ever. And we did not stick to the script. So whoever came in here this week, come back next week and just keep throwing questions in the chat because it's always fun. I got to remember to start asking for questions outside of like 30 minutes beforehand.
Big shout out to
thanks
those guys.
Do it again. I think I'll be as Hoppy and I say every week, I will never 100% commit to the following week because who knows with my life.
There's about 80% of the chance Z will be here every week, folks. So that's enough incentive to subscribe.
B minus. That's all we care about. All right. Anyways, we'll see you then, or someone will see you then. Either B, maybe not. Who knows? But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all your beauties. And yeah, that's about it. Just cut it off. I got nothing left.